So we had last week, we had scoring after the parchment was a finished product. You made a line where you're going to be cutting. So in order to make a line, in order to cut precisely, whether it is with a ruler or making a line this way, now I have a scoring line that when I'm going to tear, going to be a straight tear the size that I want. So I'm doing it for now the actual cutting to size, that itself is the next step. After I scored, they had the scoring on the hides. We wanted to be a precise size that's going to fit on the top of the Mishkan. So they made the scoring and then cutting to size. So this idea of cutting, we've had a number of malachas that have the same idea, but a different, it has its own category. This is page 271. So we have yeah. So we had kotzer as a malacha. Malacha was reaping, and reaping is cutting something that is growing a growing plant, tree, so that is cutting, but it's cutting something specifically, something that is from the ground, or attached to the ground, or its place of growth, where, for instance, we had the things that are growing from the moss that's growing from rocks. So that would be kotzer. Then we had number one was rose. Here also there's a malacha of cutting. What was this malacha in those days? What malacha was this? Cutting what? Something that is from a living thing, whether it is the sheep shearing the wool, or the human being cutting the hair, cutting nails. So this was also cutting, but specifically of something that is originally alive. Then we had Korea that was tearing. What was being torn? This was undoing sewing. We had sewing, then we had tearing. Something was sewn, got a hole, it had to be repaired. So now we're cutting the material. So cutting is with something that's a pliable material. And then we have the Beis Malacha, which is okay. This is, so what's the difference between these two? Tearing and cutting, what is the difference?
Tearing is something was already put together and we're taking it apart or repairing it.
Okay,
And cutting is, it was not already, it had not been put together by humans.
so cutting specifically means cutting to a specific size.
Oh,
Cutting to a specific size, something that you're going to use. In tearing, you were tearing it because this was not as you wanted it sewn. So also tearing specifically is with material for things that are pliable. But when cutting, that would be to any object that is going to be cut to size. So therefore, let's say we have pencil. So I'm surprised that there is no pencil sharpener in all of these. There are lots of pencils, no pencil sharpener, but anyway, the pencil sharpener is a special tool for cutting. And it is also, we want to get the pencil at a certain point. So we do want to remove the wood that's around the graphite. So this would go into the category of machatech, of cutting to size. So using a pencil sharpener on Shabbos would be a Torah prohibition. Now let's look on page. So here we have the cutting leather to a specific size. The Talmud is cutting the end of something by hand. That's something cut off by hand where one is particular about its measurement. So well, let's go back to we gave the example of the wax that's going to be used for the braces. When one cuts off the wax, do they want a specific size or it doesn't matter? How does that work? Anyone? I think we had someone with braces. No? Okay, I'm just wondering this. So cutting off, if you are cutting the wax to a specific size, that would go into this category of cutting because it's being cut for the size. So the same thing that we would have at one point, before there were the pencil sharpeners, what did one use to sharpen a pencil? A knife. You had a penknife. That's what it was called, a penknife. The penknife was used to sharpen your pencils. So using a knife to make anything specific size, this over here, we wanted the size that the graphite should be visible. Same thing would be also, we have the wine, and the wine that comes with a cork. Once you take the cork out, it expands. Now you want to close the bottle, so you want to put the cork back in. So depending on what kind of cork it is, some of them will be able to use as a stopper. Others expand too much. So what you would do in the weekday would be use a penknife and whittle it down until it fits the size of your bottle. Doing that on Shabbos is a Torah prohibition because you are cutting to a specific size. So it's not material, it is the cork that would also go into this category. Now, cutting thread or fabric to a specific measurement. So this is forbidden. Now, we have certain meats that have a netting. When you cook it, it's in the netting. What is that called? What kind of meat cut is that? Anyone? Doesn't have a specific name, the meat that's in the netting. So after
I don't know what it's called, but I know what it's called.
okay, so you have the meat that's in the netting, and now you take it out of the pan, you want to now serve it on Shabbos. And you have all that string that's surrounding it. Are you allowed to cut the threads, the string that is encasing your meat? And the answer is yes, because
You really eat it.
and
Throw away.
that's right. It's not for use. Again, one of the things was for use and also a specific size. We're not cutting the threads to a specific size. It's not the threads that are going to be used for any purpose. It is we are going to be discarding it. We want to get the meat out. So we're just cutting it in order to get to the meat. So since it is for eating, so normally you cannot just cut, even if you're not going to do it for size, rabbinically, you're not allowed to cut things on Shabbos. However, when it comes to food, then that is permissible. So then you are permitted to cut that netting and to have the use of the meat. You also used to have where they actually sewed up with needle and thread something that was called the helzel. They used to take the neck of a chicken and fill it with a filler, something we would call kishka, and it would be filled, and then they would sew it up. And then for Shabbos, you would undo the threads, and then you had that. I don't think anyone does it now. No one is gonna, no one's gonna, in the kitchen, they're not gonna have that special needle and thread special for cooking purposes. Things changed. At one time you had kishka. What is kishka? Kishka right now we put it in a plastic. Everyone knows kishka is. It's used for the chol. It's in a plastic wrapper, but originally it was the intestines of an animal that was washed and cleaned and then filled with whatever the filling is. That's why it's called kishka, means the intestines. But now it's in plastic, so it's no longer the same. The same. So yes.
So I know you answered this, but I forget if like your nail is coming off,
Mhm.
can you cut it to finish it?
Not to cut, not to use a clipper or a scissor, but if it is more than half off, you take it off gently with your hand.
And then
More than half.
The nail came half off. So this would so would it be a double malacha? So first of all, we would also go into the category of gozes, of shearing, cutting something that is from a living thing. Would it also include, essentially, if you're cutting it a specific size, do you want the size? If you want the size, then it would go two malachas. If you don't want the size, then it's one malacha.
What about, if you noticed there was a tag on your outfit?
So that itself is there are different opinions about it. You would have to. Inquire. Some people want to show that it's new, so they want to wear the tag. You have the different garments that they have on the outside. They have the label, instead of being the label inside, it's the label outside. It's a very prestigious company. So everyone wants some people want to advertise the fact that they are wearing this prestigious garment. But you never saw the tags outside.
I'm thinking like when it's literally the price
I
tag.
know, but I'm saying there's some tags that are left because they want to leave them. Some of the in the men hats, they have something that's called Borsalino,
Where they sell
and they
it
have
on the
that they
outside.
actually have it on the headband. They actually have the name,
It's annoying.
so everyone know it's a very prestigious hat, or it's an advertisement that people are advertising them for free. So so here we have cutting paper to a specific measurement, prohibition of cutting. If there is no cut toilet paper, this is on bottom of page 272, reading from the book. It's forbidden to cut paper according to a measurement because of the prohibition of cutting. If one wants to relieve himself and has no cut toilet paper, one is lenient and tears toilet paper, has the authority on whom to rely. One should tear the toilet paper with a chain, just with his elbow. One should try not to tear on the preparation. So we do have, let's say we have this were to be a closed box. We have a closed box. Yes. I was hoping there would be a closed box in the class, and sure, we have a closed box. Okay, now, when we're going to be opening this, do we want it specifically to open it as is the preparation? We do. Why? Because we want it to be neat. So doing this on Shabbos, since we want, it should be on this special. So this would be this malacha of machata, cutting to specific size, because we do want it specifically to be on the preparation. So therefore, this would be a Torah prohibition. If it would not be specific size, then it matters why you're doing. You know what item you're doing. Rabbinically, it would be forbidden. Under certain circumstances, it would be they've made exceptions to the prohibition, rabbinic prohibitions. So we said that the proper way to do it would be to cut it open, not to use this as a storage, cut it open where there are no letters, and then get to use the
What about if
paper.
you just did it halfway like that and just left it?
But I do, but it's even so, I mean, I want it to specific, I want it to be, I don't want this part to be torn.
But couldn't you make that same argument if you cut it on the back end, you're still cutting it to a specific length?
Not the specific size, I just want to open it,
Oh.
not doing it for any, okay. Now, here we have the cork fitting into a bottle on page 273, that is forbidden, goes into this category. Plastic bag which contains food or like on the spot marked on the package. Now, an example would be you have the little packets where the packets are not being used for storage. It's a one-time use. So opening that is not creating a storage bag. It's just removing the food that is enclosed. So the one-time use, opening it up. So it's recommended to open before Shabbos, not so you could open it on Shabbos. So now you have the little packets of sugar. And they have at the edge a little marking where you should tear. So the question is that something that you specifically want that size, or it's just convenient that if you're going to tear it, that's that much, the rest will not spill out and be all over the table. It's just advising you, you cut this much, you're still going to be able to retain the sugar in the packet, and it's not going to spill. If you tear too much, it's going to overflow, and you're going to be getting it on the table. So the purpose of cutting it is not because you want a specific size, you want it, the rest of it should not spill out. So here they're being lenient to say that you could cut that marking on the little sugar packets, or the same thing would be you have the ketchup, mustard, you have the little packets. So that's a one-time use, it's not meant to store, and you have to be careful not to cut any letters, not to erase. So then, one is page 274, one is carefully cut on the marking because precision in tearing is intended to prevent the spilling of the contents and not in order to use the piece that was cut off. There are the plastic bags that are in a roll of bags. So we have those that are interfolded one in another. If you have the garbage bags, you have different ways they are being sold. Am I right? That you have the bags that are attached one to another, you tear it, and you have, especially when you are in the fruit market, you have one bag where you tear it, that's also an opening to be able to use it, but it's all attached, it's one big long roll, all attached. So in order to use the bag, you have to tear it off from the roll, and specifically you wanted to tear it in that place in order you should be able to opening of the bag. And you don't want to cut the bottom of the next bag, that when you're going to put something in, everything is going to fall out. So you specifically want to cut it to that size on the perforation. So therefore, the cutting, when one cuts off the bag, that's the malacha of mechater, cutting and fixing the utensil. Since the next bag is still sealed shut, by cutting the first bag, the second one becomes a utensil. So therefore, the roll is muktzah on Shabbos, and you cannot remove one from the other. Cutting food to size.
Sort of it goes back to the tissue box and the sugar. So if we pull off the top of that, back to that.
No, let's see, with the sugar, I'm not going to use it again. I'm throwing it out.
Oh, you took them in tiny
The
little
little
packets,
tiny
super
packets,
big.
no, the packets that you have, that
Oh, not a big bag.
little packets, that's why I said, one time I throw it, you open it up, you throw it out. So it's not being used in any way, and you're not having any reason why you're cutting it a specific size other than the thing that it shouldn't spill. If you're going to be using it again, you want to cut something for a not specific size, so in order it should be,
So if the big sugar bag,
right, so that's had a different rule.
because if you cut it, then it becomes a storage bag.
Yeah. Yes.
There like the food bags, like freezer bags or whatever,
Mhm.
where it's like a bag, but if you open the bag, there's actually a Ziploc inside of it.
Mhm.
It's an issue if you open
Yeah, Ziplocs?
It's not a Ziploc, it's a food bag,
Yeah,
but like, in order to use the Ziploc
Yeah.
bag, you have to open it. You can tear it open and then it can reseal itself. It has a
So-
Ziploc inside of it.
so you have to tear off the top in order to get to the Ziploc.
Right. Is it an issue or like if you? Or do you have to like? Seal it
You
first?
should have opened up a Shabbos before Shabbos.
Should probably do
You
that.
should have it before Shabbos, yes. I'm trying to think of why was it made that way?
To keep everything fresh.
To keep fresh. Like chip bags, cereals, things like that like that.
So yeah, so it's like a double, because if you, the Ziploc isn't 100%
You
closed.
know, I can't, I'm not,
So it's like, say bag and it's like a little preparation.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
You tear
tear
off
it off.
the top, right? Preparation.
they're all.
And then once you tear it off, you coat it from there, but then it's a zip.
So you have like some of the cookies, some of the
Yeah.
cookies of that sort that they do that, so here you want to cut it off right size. If you cut too much, you're gonna cut into the Ziploc. You're gonna be,
No.
no, you cut it too much?
No, you cut above it.
I'm saying, yeah, I'm saying it like you, what I'm saying, I'm trying to think if it's just for a specific size that you wanna cut off.
Oh, yeah, because that's right, if
Is
you
that-
cut
If
too
you cut
much,
too
then
much, you're going to
cutting
go,
it off.
you're going to get to the Ziploc, but you're no longer going to have a Ziploc.
Preparation, you did choose the,
So I'm saying, so it
you're
is,
not making it.
it is, I think it is for a specific size, that's my thought. That is it for a specific size, not too much, because they're going to go into the Ziploc.
Right.
So then I think it's more, I think it would be something that's a specific size.
Yeah, it actually has a recommendation of it, but.
I think it is for, I think it is for that size, that's my thought. I'd have to experiment myself to see how it works. So if I do have that chance, I'll be able to report that. But to me, at first, first thought would be that you specifically want it to be a certain size, not to be too much. And it's going to be too less, it's not going to open. It's going to be too much, you're going to go into the Ziploc. So my thought is that it's a specific size and it's made with the proper preparation. I would imagine to make it easier for you to detail. Do you have to use a scissor for it, or can you do it by hand? How does it work?
It depends on the bag,
Yeah, okay.
sometimes you can use your hand, sometimes you have to use a scissor.
Okay, the one that's by hand, it's usually a specific size that they sort of make it so that when you start tearing it, it's sort of get to tear a certain size. I would stay away from that. Cutting food. So here we have, on page 274, cutting food. There's no prohibition in cutting food, which is ready to eat. And you can measure it. Not to make it too small or too thin, which goes into the malach of grinding. We said again, making the salads, cutting the vegetables should not be a very small size because it does not have to do with cutting, it has to do with grinding. That's another category. So not to make it too small because of grinding, but not to use a tool that cuts a particular shape, because that's goes into making shapes, which is connected to writing. If someone takes no, the bottom of 274, if one cuts food for a purpose other than eating, such as one who cuts a potato in order to stand a candle in it, transgresses by the performing the malach of cutting because he wanted to cut to a specific size. Okay, so that's specific. This is basically the at the bottom of 275. You have yogurts that are connected one to another. They come in sets. Can you separate the sets? So there are authorities that forbid separating containers of yogurt which are stuck together in pairs. They are concerned that one violates the prohibition of cutting by separating them because the cutting is according to a measurement. So there are others who find leniency, why it should be permissible, which doesn't say here, but one should open up these containers of yogurt before Shabbos, things that are stuck together, it cares to open it before Shabbos. So now we're finished having the hides, where you had the trapping and the shafting, and then the tanning, and then smoothing, the scraping, and making the lines, cutting it to size. Now we have the covering for the Mishkan. Now we have to put the Mishkan together. The Mishkan was a place of where a house for Hashem, the holiness was apparent there. All the miracles that took place, we have in Pirkei Avos, all the miracles that took place in the Mishkan, in the Beis Hamikdash, and people donated. Now each person had their intentions when they were donating. Some people, I guess, wanted to have a sign donated by. They didn't have that in the Mishkan, donated by, but the intentions were taking, Hashem considered the intentions, and therefore, when people, for instance, donated wood, what is the wood going to be used for? It could be used for the altar, it could be used for the inner Mizbeach, it could be used for the poles, the posts, holding up the curtains, posts that are there in Kodesh HaKadoshim, holding up the curtain between Holy of Holies and Holy. And then there were the boards themselves that are going to compromise the building itself. And in the boards themselves, there are those that were the boards that were inside. The Mishkan was 30 cubits by 10 cubits, divided into two sections. One was 10 by 10, which was the Holy of Holies, where the Ark and the Luchos were kept. And the other was where the show table with the showbread, the menorah, the Mizbeach for incense, the golden. So you had the wood that was going to be used, could be used for many different purposes, and also the Mishkan itself, the wood that was used for Kodesh HaKadoshim, Holy of Holies, the western side, the northern side, the southern side, and also that which is in Kodesh. Now everything was according to Hashgacha Pratis, according to how the person donated. That is where the donation was used. And it was meant to be that way at all times. So when they were having the boards of the Mishkan set up, however it was set up the first time, that is how it was set at all times. So how did they duplicate this? How did the boards all were the same? They were golden boards, and they were plated with gold. They all looked the same. So how did you know? So you had writing according to the Aleph base. So you had Aleph was a match, and you had Beis was a match, so they were matched up. So to begin with, there was the writing of two letters that are going to be matching. They're going to be matching, and that was going to be the way the Mishkan was always going to be set up, according to the way it was set originally, Aleph, Beis. So you match the letters together. So in order to match, you needed two letters. So when is it a Torah prohibition? If it's two letters that are being written one next to another, that you're going to have the Aleph, Beis, as was in the Mishkan. Having one Aleph did not serve the purpose. If you just wrote one Aleph and there was no Aleph matching it, you did not know what's going to be its matching partner. So then the writing was there in case the letter did not come up properly, they would erase it and then rewrite the letter. So there we have the writing and erasing. This becomes a part of the malacha. So something that is a symbol that has some meaning to it, that would be the malacha. And Toda is drawing a picture. It's not the same as coloring. Coloring is just adding, enhancing, making it to be colored. But when it comes to writing, it is something that is giving a message, and therefore a picture would also go into that category. in order to have the Torah prohibition, it would include that it's something that's going to be two letters, that's going to be lasting, and also on a surface that's going to last. So doing that is a Torah prohibition. So that would include writing with a pen, pencil, on a piece of paper, on the board. This would also, if we're going to use the magic marker, I'm going to write on the board. If I leave it this way, it's going to stay this way. This is also permanent unless I erase it. This is going to be lasting. So this would go into the category of writing. The rabbinic prohibition is that you're not writing in the normal way that you write. So someone who's ambidextrous, they could write either with their right or left hand. Someone who is right-handed would write with their right hand. The left hand would not come out of proper writing. Someone who is left-handed would write with the left hand, and that would doing with the other hand would not be a proper writing. So therefore, the Torah prohibition is writing with a normal hand that you write, unless you're ambidextrous. So that makes both of them are the normal way. So writing two letters in a normal way on a surface that's going to be lasting, and with an item that is going to last.
Is the Torah prohibition.
That would be the Torah prohibition. And the rabbinic prohibition includes something that is missing from this definition. So that would also include that we are writing on a surface that's not lasting. So some of the examples on page 279, writing on condensation on a window. So if you have the window's steamed up, you're going to be writing on the mirror. You're going to be writing on a cabinet that was not dusted in a while. So writing with dust, that is also rabbinic, but that's not lasting. Writing on sand, not on earth, but on sand. That's also writing on the sand. That would also include that. Sitting by the table and using crumbs, challah crumbs, to make these shapes and letters. So that would also be rabbinic forbidden. So even if it's a nice bar Torah, and you're trying to sort of focus, so we would not write with the crumbs. So these are writing on a surface that is not going to last, and writing with something that is not lasting, and not lasting ink, that would be writing with a beverage. So you have this water on the table, and you're going to be writing with that water, or doing the same thing with the you have disappearing ink. So that would be a rabbinic prohibition. It's disappearing ink. You also have with writing with magnets, with filaments, with the magnets. You have that some of the children's toys are such that you could you have the etch, what is it called? Etchograph? Sketch. So you have that. That also that is forbidden to do so, would be a rabbinic prohibition. It's not meant to last, but it would be that you are actually writing with a sign. So all those would be rabbinic prohibitions. Writing in the air is okay. I think writing on someone's back, the person you can't talk, but you just want to give a message on the person's back. That is okay. That's okay. It's not. There's no remnant of that in any way. Well, the same thing. You can't talk, and you're going to write up with your hand. The person will be reading your message as you're going along. This also would be permissible. There's no sign that is left. It just would be the same as writing in the air. So writing in the air But the same thing would be if someone's writing on a table, but the table is dust-free and it's crumb-free, and you're just making letters, that person should be able to get the message where you cannot talk. That would be permissible.
But if you write on the table, wouldn't you be like leaving oils or like a fingerprint?
But that's insignificant. It's, no one, you need the special fingerprint lab guys who are going to pick it up. Secondly, putting the, well, actually writing, putting a
We have to
fingerprint,
bring the FBI in.
the fingerprint itself is writing. There's some things that making a fingerprint that's actually going to put your finger in ink and then make the fingerprint, that would actually be writing. Same thing would also be when you have the stamps, that would be an actual writing. So that's considered writing. Yes.
Two questions. One is, I think I read it here, but to clarify, so we cannot rabbinically write with our left hand, we're writing, we can't.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The second is beyond the scope of this, if you have a suggestion, like your deaf people, they're in a place of hearing people,
The right on the hand, that's
Yeah.
fine. Yes,
but
that's
right, I'm wondering if, if you ever,
fine. Writing a braille is also a message.
I mean, talking to a Rob about the possibility of a leniency for a deaf person to be able to write for a deaf person.
But I'm saying, there's something that they make when they go like this, they tap out whatever it is.
Right.
And that would be permissible, because there's no sign, there's no,
Yeah,
what's the word I'm looking for, not a remnant, or there's no.
I understand, I'm thinking, I wonder if
So-
one of
So now, where there would be a leniency would be what, someone who has to go in the hospital or somewhere where you need a signature, where they're not, it is a dangerous situation where you do have to be admitted. And so if you're able to convince them that you're going to do all the signing after Shabbos, that would be the first way to go. If not, then you would look for rabbinic. So rabbinic would be either left hand, or rabbinic would also be two people doing it together. The Malacha Torah prohibition is to a person that is able to do the act themselves and does it with two people, then that becomes rabbinic. So that would be the options where we are going to go into using rabbinics. The same would also be at one point you had in the hospitals that are staying away from writing, you have the plastic. You write on it with a stylus on a plastic surface, and you're able to read it. And then when you want to erase it, you just lift it up, and it disappears. So this again would not be considered permanent writing, and therefore doing that would be rabbinic. In the hospital, this is at one point. This is what they used. I don't know what they do now, but at one point in the religious hospital, this is what they did. That they were able to write, that which was necessary. And have that, in a temporary writing.
Thank you.
It's a training, coming up on Friday.